welcome this Sunday after springing forward. Good gosh. So, thank you all for being here. I'm Dr. Barry. I'm a licensed psychologist. And here on YouTube, I talk about psychology and true crime. And I'm so excited to have to partner with Kathy today from Gossip, Rumor, and Innuendo. And Kathy, I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey there, true crime friends. I am Kathy from Gossip, Rumor, and Innuendo, and I talk gossip and true crime here on YouTube. If you want to know the good, if you want to know who wore a bad outfit on the stand, honey, I'm your girl.
I love it. I love it. And I'm glad that we got to connect. I'm interested to know what got you into covering because there's lots of different ways to cover true crime. And
Yeah.
I love the way you do it because it is like I live for you breaking the news on all these things.
Well, you know what's funny? I like true crime. I'm a longtime true crime fan, but what I really didn't like was sort of like the ain't it awful of it all, right? There are people who cover true crime and they're like, and then this terrible thing happened and this terrible thing. And I'm not about the trauma porn of it all. I want to know what happened in a way that doesn't mean that I have to now call my therapist and, talk about it. Although everybody should call your therapist. But I wanted to engage it in a way that was user friendly for most people. Um,
I
and so I just started talking about it.
I love that because on my side, I try to educate. So any case I cover, it's like, what can we learn from this case? What can we talk about related to psychology? And I think that helps
Hmm.
because sometimes when you're talking about true crime, it really can be very triggering as you're
For sure.
following everything and watching everything. What
Hmm.
cases are you following right now?
Oh my gosh. There's so many cases out right now. I'm absolutely following Lori Vallow Daybell. Um who else am I following? Because I don't plan what I do, I literally open my phone in the morning and whatever pops up, that's what I talk about. I kind of don't know, although I could look and see. I'm doing Lori Vallow Daybell. I'm following what's Monica Simontelli. That's the lady in California, the hairdresser's wife. She and her boyfriend, unfortunately unalived, her husband. Chat, can you help me out? Because I don't know. Oh, Donna Adelson, Mama Donna. The way I love Donna Adelson. Not in the I wish she was my mama way, more in the like, oh, she's garbage. Let's talk about her with our pinkies out because we're ladies and gentlemen, but mostly ladies. Um, Whatever is big in the news and not too trauma inducing, that's who I'm following.
I love that. And with Donna, because I haven't talked about it here, because she was
Mm,
trying to be released because she was upset
yes.
with how she's being treated in jail. And to me, the judge was like, ma'am, this is not a Hilton. This is not the Four Seasons. Like, it is not our job to make you comfortable. We do our best to keep
Right.
you safe because I think she's in protective custody because she reported some issues with other inmates.
Right.
Didn't say who, and all of these things happen, and she tried so hard, and it's the thing that boggles my mind is how they try to minimize her trying to leave the country and maybe not
You
coming
just
back.
needed a vacation. Don't you just need a vacation to a non-extradition country
Well,
periodically from time to time?
after asking your daughter about like try and Wendy is like,
Oh
y'all,
my
like
God.
Wendy is not trying to go down with them if she can help it.
Wendy is like, new life, who this? I don't know none of y'all. No, thank you, ma'am. No, thank you. A mess. I love it. Donna wanted to talk to the manager, right? She thought that the judge was the manager of the jail. And she was just like, Your Honor, I needed a band aid. It took a day to get one. And she's like, when he said something about, I forget the question that he asked. And she was just like, oh, I just need a good night's sleep. Oh, that would be great. Like, ma'am? That's not what he's here to do for you. That's not really his job. And the earwax, she was like, I have narrow ear canals, and that the solution that you offered me was nowhere near sufficient. And so I'm going to need the earwax specialist to come in and help me with my tiny rosebud ear canals. So if you could just line that up for me, please, and thank you. No, ma'am. She doesn't know how jail works.
And I like how you compared it to Sarah Boone too, because I do think Judge Kranek gave in to Sarah, but, like, he set his boundaries, but he kind of let Sarah
Right,
above and beyond a little because they just wanted to get through the trial. It had been so
right.
many years, and I think he was just trying to get it in front of a jury. Uh, but
Mhm.
but this judge, he's like and I love it, like, his tone, he's just he has this
Oh
way of
my god.
just like, because I
Judge Everett. Mm.
Yes, no, but it's great for a judge because I covered a case recently and you followed the Jermaine Bass case too, because the
A
judge
little bit on the edges, on
okay,
the edges.
if you didn't look at sentencing, look at just the end of it after his statement, because he tried to give a statement saying still calling what he did an accident, and the judge interrupted him, and she was like, "Are you claiming that the accident you're referring to, is that the death of your children?" And he was like,
Oh
"Yeah."
my
She was like
god.
she rolled her eyes, like, she was like,
Did you see the Jamie Komorowski case where the judge did the same thing?
"I missed it. Imma have to go back and look."
Jamie Komorowski was the girl in South Carolina. She's from Jersey, but I'm from Jersey. We not claiming her.
Mhm,
Jamie Komorowski was living in South Carolina and she was drunk driving and she hit the bride and the groom in the little golf cart on their wedding day.
mhm.
And everybody got up and said their little sentence, said their statement or whatever. And then the judge was like, stand up. She was like, I called her auntie judge because she came with full auntie energy. Like, look, let me tell you something. And I was like, uh-oh. Judge Auntie about to lay it down. And then she maxed her out on every charge. And Jamie was like, what do you mean I'm going to prison for 25 years? She's like,
I
yes,
I
ma'am.
I remember that one because I think she was planning to get less, and they let all those
Yeah,
people talk. I think it was pretty long sentencing. They
it
let
was.
everybody get up and talk, and the judge was like, "No, no."
Yeah. Yeah. I'm done with you, girl. And the girl who passed, her father got up and he was like
He was like,
I am
"You can go to hell." Like, he was like
yeah.
was he the one that was like,
He
"I'll
was
see
like,
you there?"
he was
Or
yes, he said, I will hate you for as long as you live, and when you die, I will meet you at the gates of hell and I will hate you there. I was like, Daddy meant that. He said
and
that with his full chest.
and for anyone that's new to me, when I'm laughing, it's not because, like, this is painful, like, this hurts, but I wasn't because sometimes you expect people to come in, like and not that they have to forgive, but sometimes people hold
Right.
back some of those statements. He held back nothing,
At all.
and
At all.
he let it all out because I was
I
so surprised when he said that, when he was like, "I'll meet you in hell," I was like, "Dang."
I have a jar of cares that somebody sent me that I keep right here on my desk. And because it is believed, it is widely believed that I'm out of cares. So people actually I have two jars of them because people keep sending them to me. Um, that gentleman could have used some of my cares. He ain't have none that day. None. None, none, none. He was all out. All out.
And I totally understand because this was his daughter on on I think it was on her
Yes.
wedding day, like, this it was really, really a sad case, and,
Terrible. And he had been hit by a drunk driver in his
oh, wow,
youth.
wow,
Yeah,
wow.
crazy.
Someone
Did you follow Rose Petal?
I did.
I was fascinated by that case. I couldn't look away. I couldn't look away. That Zachary Hughes,
Mhm.
I mean, I believe that he did the wrong thing for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And I know now that you're not allowed to unfortunately unalive people.
So, I don't know that he knew about the essay. I don't know that he knew what was the full extent of what was happening.
Right.
I think he lucked out that she really was
Yes. Yes.
a harmful person because his friend could have been lying to him. So
Absolutely.
for anybody that did not follow this case, it was the Rose Petal murder case, and, Zachary Hughes is the defendant. He testified in the in
Mhm.
and it
Gave a
was
full confession.
that and snitched on everybody. People his
Oh my
friend got
god.
arrested because of his testimony.
While he was on the stand, they were like, "Wait, what? He said what? He did what? Okay, somebody go pick him up." Mhm.
Because to me, his he was trying to be this righteous savior of this
Yes.
child, but
Yes.
he had never met this woman. He had only met the child. I think he only met her once to,
Yep.
and he didn't and they never talked about what happened. And, I kind of wonder because when he talked about his adopted sister, Grace, and poor
Yes.
Grace, because to my knowledge, Grace hasn't harmed a single like, hasn't, like, unalived
Right.
anybody. She doesn't have any criminal charges that I'm aware of. But he tried to excuse his behavior and make himself the victim again.
Right.
I had to survive all of this. Nobody knows psychopaths like I know them, and I think he lacked awareness that he turned into the things that he hated, because he when he was
Yeah.
talking about Grace, he was like, "She can talk about these horrific things like she's talking about eating a sandwich," and the way that he just talked about all the horrible stuff he did, all flat, no affect.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the what's that saying? You create what you defend against,
Yeah.
right? He's trying so hard not to be Grace or be like Grace. He became Grace. But also, I believe the Grace story. When I was a kid, we had foster children in our home. Many sets of foster children come through our home. And one, I think I talked about this on a members only. I won't use the person's name, obviously. She's an adult now. But we had a 5-year-old that came into our home who was both homicidal and self-alive ideation.
Yep.
And she was extraordinarily dangerous and manipulative as a 5-year-old. I was in college. I was either in high school or college. And she was truly terrifying. And so when he talked about his situation with Grace, I was like, I remember living with a person like that. And I was a full grown up. She was 5. She was in kindergarten and it was unbelievably terrifying.
And, in my clinical work, so I used to work in a residential home for kids that
Mhm.
were unable to be safely maintained in the community, and they had to go to
Mhm.
a secure facility, and
Yep.
often these children's charts would be 2 to 3 books of just
Yep.
trauma after trauma, horrific things, and that doesn't excuse anything, but it just kind of helps me understand, because to me, the way
Right.
that we talked about Grace ignored her adoption trauma, and that
Right.
maybe because he talked about her like he was her dad and not her brother.
Right.
And
Right.
he was like, "We couldn't control her." It's like, "You were her brother. You should have had nothing to do." She was, I think, only 3 years younger, 3 or 4, like, their
Yeah.
ages were a little similar. Like, he
Mhm.
had nothing to do with, and it's normal that seeing the impact of her on his family, it's normal that would frustrate him and upset him, and he'd want people to be safe, but it's almost like
Mhm.
he felt he couldn't save the family from her, so now he was
Right.
trying to save this other family from this horrific person who did turn out to, like, not be.
To be a horrific
Yeah.
person. In a way, like, I defended Zach through the whole thing, and my instinct still is to want to defend him, partially because, like, I am a youngest sibling, and so I have always benefit from the defense of others, but like I was saying before, I have 4 sons, and all of the older boys think of themselves as the parents of the younger children. So, every time we had a baby, I remember one of my sons saying to me, what he wanted to sit us down, meaning my husband and I, he was 6. He wanted to sit us down and talk about discipline and what we were going to do about discipline with this baby and what were the rules going to be. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. Um, and so we had to explain to him that, like, he was not, in fact, the parent. And he was like, I hear what you're saying, but what are we gonna blah, blah, blah. And every time we had another kid, because, we real irresponsible, me and my husband with the birth control, the older's child has always taken sort of a parental role with the younger child. So while it's wildly inappropriate and it's the parent's job to stand up and go, no, no, that's not your job, they
Especially
step in that way.
'cause I think 'cause, you mentioned having foster youth, and if you were under the age of 18 with foster youth, because children under the age of a certain like, children under 18 can't supervise foster youth
Mhm,
without an adult.
mhm.
But with adoption, there's this freedom that can kind of come, and so that's why
Right.
I like I like talking about these topics that you have to approach it different, and
Yeah, for
if there's
sure.
a concern, they really have to take a look at it. Were there any questions you had or things you wanted to dive deeper on the rose petal one?
I just I sort of couldn't get past, right, the way that, Zach had this righteous indignation, right? And the level at which he was so calm. I was like, I'm not sure if he's convinced himself that this is okay or that it's already okay. Did he sort of see this for his life? Because I don't know how closely you followed the case. I followed the case for ever since Murdoch was over, like
Ooh,
2
a
years,
lot,
3 years.
yeah.
I've been on that one. They said he was thriving in prison, that he'd done extraordinarily well in prison,
So
and
he's the best at everything he does.
yes, yes, he's going to be the best prisoner, but he was gonna play these 32 Beethoven sonatas, and right before he committed this unfortunate unaliving, he, had performed the last of the 32, and then he was like, "This is done, like, my life's work is now done," and then he was gonna go off into this cruise ship and start part 2 of his life. Well, part 2 of his life has become prison, but I wonder, from your perspective, do you think he was like, okay, now my regular outside life is over and now I'm going to go to this new life? I just was fascinated by the 32 sonatas being like an ending for him and how he talked about it being an ending.
I wonder how he would feel if his friend had been wrong. So because his friend was right
Mm,
and they found all the CSAM later and all of that, I think he feels he did the right and he told the jury,
yes. Yes.
despite the judge saying, "Stop it," you know,
Right.
he told the jury, I think he has no regrets. I think he feels like
Mm.
he's that child savior. She I think if he had just pew-pewed her, not just, but you know what I mean? Like, I think
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
jury I think the savageness of it, and he said this was to not harm more people. This was as quiet,
Right.
like he was trying to not harm more people, but,
Mhm.
I just wasn't sure if there was some secret sadism or, like, trying to get her to be in pain
Oh.
because he
Oh.
was saying on the stand, because I think there was this idea he wanted to put forward to the world to say,
Yeah.
"I'm a good person, like,
Mhm.
I saved this little girl, and this was the best thing I could do." Exactly, 30,
Mhm.
35 wounds, and some of them were superficial, but still. And for him to say, "My body was telling me not to do it. I prayed." And that's the part so
Dear Jesus, how many times should I stab this
Yeah,
lady?
no,
What?
sure, the "Thou shalt not." And now
Right?
he 'cause, so I work with Marines. I work with people that because of their job and because of the mission of the United States, they have to go and do things. And when they come back,
Mhm.
some have significant trauma and we work through it. And,
Mhm.
um, uh, I was not comfortable with him as a private citizen doing this. So when
Mm.
I covered it, I brought up there was a similar case in Maryland. The incident happened in Washington, DC, where,
Okay.
a black woman who was running a daycare found out that her husband was harming children in her daycare. And she went to a hotel in DC. He was there, and, she pew-pewed him, and he's not here. She was sentenced to 4 years, but she was like, it was her daycare, it was her
Yeah.
husband, and I think people, because I don't know how people would have felt if the father had known about the harm and he was the one that and I s
Right.
don't do crimes. I'm not saying it would have been right if he had done it,
Right.
but it's just
Right.
weird to me that this vigilante, this just random person who just so happened to have had some difficulties with someone in his childhood, he's the one
Yeah.
to be the savior of this child. That felt weird
Well,
to me.
apparently, I was speaking to the reporters down in South Carolina who were reporting on the story, and Jen Wood had spoken to one of the jurors on the case. The reporter from Fitz News has spoken to one of the jurors on the case, and apparently there was a lot of back and forth on the jury. They're like, "Okay, we've agreed to not discuss the things we're not supposed to discuss, but like." I mean, if it turned out he was right, though, right? And ultimately, the way they got to guilty, and it was a pretty fast verdict, but the way they got to guilty was that one of the jurors acted out the crime in the jury room, which I was fascinated by. He was like, okay, look, if you're upset, right, and you feel terrible about somebody, and he smacked his hand on the table to represent each stab wound. He's like, okay, one, two, okay, like, okay, good, she's done. But because he hesitated or whatever, um, this juror was like, smack, 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 and didn't stop smacking the table until they got to 35. And it was after that demonstration that the rest of the jury was like, okay, we can safely and comfortably lock
And
his behind up.
and I thought the state was a little sneaky because in the state's closing, the state said there was no like they because no evidence of
Yes.
her
Yes.
doing anything came up in
Yes.
because the state said there was no
There's
confirmed
nothing on the record or something like that. Yeah.
harm to the child, and I'm sure the jury might feel and they didn't lie because that I mean, that
Yes. It
there was
wasn't
no evidence.
officially on the record.
uh,
Right.
but, 'cause, I believe it was Tanika and it might have been Lisa that also mentioned how this little girl, because of this, because to me, I would have rather her have felt like to get to the place where she was safe enough to tell her teacher, to talk with a counselor,
Mhm.
to tell
Mhm.
that guardian ad litem, to be able to let somebody know and then to not feel and I don't think at this point, I don't think she feels responsible for what happened to her mom, and I don't think
Right.
she is, but the way that things can happen is her mom died because some guy thought she was unsafe. Does that make sense? And so
Yeah, absolutely. And but in her testimony, she had testified at the guardianship hearing because her father was arrested for like interfering with custody or one of these types of things. And on the stand, she said that when her father took her away to Italy, it was the best day of her life or the best thing that ever
Mhm.
happened to her, or something along those lines. But then after she was taken away to Italy, she had to be brought back to Italy to live with her mother and the sister and the boyfriend. I had like my feelings around Zach are very messy. My feelings around John Mello are very clear. I think he's extraordinarily manipulative. I understand that he was trying to do the best for his daughter, but given his overall sort of record and his social history, what would you diagnose him with? Or if you could, I mean, obviously you can't diagnose the
I
man.
so the way that Zach described him, he described him that he exaggerates. Like,
Yes.
that's what he said on the stand. He said,
Yes.
"You know, John." So I think John, might have some features of something where he's gonna go above and beyond and be manipulative to try to
Yes.
get his way. Um,
For sure, for sure. And he seemed to be like that about everything,
yeah.
right? At one point, he didn't pay his light bill. And so the light company, turned off the light bill, electric, whatever the company is down there, turned off his light bill. So he started harassing, like, not like, I'm going to write an angry letter to your manager, like level 10 harassing the employees of the light company because he didn't pay his bill. Like, sir, I'm gonna need you to maybe like dial this back a little bit. Everything cluster B is happening over there in that man's crazy head.
That's the vibe I get, and cluster
Yeah,
B is your histrionic, antisocial, borderline. Yes,
yeah,
those diagnoses, and not say but, like, that's the vibe that I was
yeah.
getting based on, just what Zach even said, which to me would make John possibly be less credible. So if I was on the jury,
Mm,
it's like, "Wait a minute, he said he exaggerates, like, why would you listen,
right.
eh, to everything John said?" And I couldn't not because John I think part of why the mom might have got custody was because of what John did to the lawyer. I think John was
Yes.
lying and making up stuff about the I think the guardian ad litem, and,
Mhm.
I think it was pushing people away. Now he might have been right, but there's a wrong
Yes.
way to do the right thing.
Yes, yes. He was like that about everything. At one point in the community, there was a whole Facebook page called Melodrama, and it was all the victims of John Mello, whether it was the people from the light company, that guardian ad litem, anybody who had ever crossed him, he would just go a level of thousand on
Also,
everybody.
an age difference. I haven't heard anybody talk about this.
The age difference between who?
is
Christina and John?
isn't John
It's like a
older?
30 or 40-year age difference. He was old enough to be her dad. And so I could see him being attracted to a younger woman so that he could take that parental role and be more in charge. And she seemed to be very attracted to older men. I believe she had at least three partners that were significantly older than her, which to me, I am not the therapist, honey. I'm the gossip. But I'm like, hello, daddy issues. Like, what in the world?
And
Unbelievable.
not the line between therapy and, like, what, like, your eyes are and ears are telling you what you
Hmm.
and, uh, I just wow, wow.
Have
There
you seen, Christopher Austin on the stand this week? I don't know if you followed this trial. The, Cimentelli out of California,
I
one of the hitmen took the stand, and he, much like Zachary Hughes, gave a point by point detailed accounting of what happened during the commission of the crime. The difference is Zachary Hughes is like, I did the thing and I was right, and this is what happened. This hitman, I've been calling him the hitman with the heart of gold because he's just like my mentor, this dude who's my dad's age, sort of took me under his wing and was like, he called this guy Unc. And he said, Unc, sent me a plane ticket, told me to come down here, said, okay, we're going to unfortunately unalive my girlfriend's husband. And the guy's like, okay, yeah, 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 yeah. And then they go out to do it and the guy's like, oh, I didn't have a good shot, so I didn't take it. Okay, I guess I'm going to go back to, wherever I live. And the guy's like, don't worry about it. The next day they go, and the unc says to him, okay, you hold him down and I'm gonna like him. And so Christopher was just like, okay. So they run in the house, but Christopher just freezes. He doesn't do anything. So the hitman puts his hand over the guy's mouth and then stabs him a whole bunch of times. Christopher stabs him once and then like sort of excuses himself from the whole situation. And then they steal the car, they run off, whatever, and they don't get caught. For 7 years, they don't get caught. Meanwhile, Christopher is racked with guilt. He has unalive ideation. He can't go on, but he decides to like turn his whole life around. He became a mentor for troubled youth. He got married. He's taking care of his wife. They have a daughter. He's taking care of the grandma. He's living a good life in in Canada and in Alaska, like way north. When they arrest him, he's like, you got me. I'm going to give up everything. And he said, I tell my mentees,
Oh,
if you do something, you got to get out in front of it and you got to own what you did. And so that's what he did. And he wept so bitterly on the
oh,
stand as he told his story. I was mesmerized by the whole thing. Meanwhile, his wife was like,
oh. And I think the difference between those 2, Zach came off cold to me, like,
yes,
just empty, just now there were times
yes.
when he tried when he was describing how difficult it was to do the crime and all of that, he seemed
Hmm.
to possibly have a little bit of anxiety or stress in his voice, but
Hmm.
overall, he seemed to just want to tell a story. Parts of it seemed
Yes.
and it understandably rehearsed, and the prosecution to me dropped the mic when they were just like, "I just have one question. Did you drag her by her hair?" Like, that's when you her,
Yes.
did you drag
Yep.
her by her hair? And that was
Yep.
like,
That was the most gangster thing I've ever seen. It's just like,
because
yeah.
I wanted to see how he would hold up on cross-examination, but I think the state made
Hmm.
a decision because I think he would have kept saying things that he wasn't supposed to say. I think he would have kept
Hmm.
saying, "I did it to save her. I did
Right.
it for the child. I did it because she was harming."
Right.
And so, the state made an awesome decision there. If y'all have
So
questions,
good.
please put QQ or question marks. I have a question flagged, and so let's go through some
Okay.
of this
Let's
right
have
here.
it.
So,
Oh,
Kathy is, you have a member for 2 months. Thank you,
thank you,
Kathy, for
thank
also
you.
being a member here. Um, New member to my channel, and then a for Kathy's channel, from C. Morales?
Thank you, C. Morales.
And then Donna, the new not even new. This is just Karen, just regular plain old Karen to me.
Yes. Yes, for sure.
Then I just wanna go back because this question is about at 5 years old, because we were talking about a child at 5 having a lot of behaviors. And,
Mhm.
often those children have seen and heard things and had and been exposed to things that are beyond that's more adult,
Yes.
in my experience. And also sometimes that child is trying they've learned to switch homes by being bad. So
Mm.
it's really common if you don't have, and also the foster home has to be the right fit. So with a kiddo
Right.
like this, I wouldn't recommend having children under the age of 10 or 11, because if that 5-year-old was put in a home with a baby, that 5-year-old might do something to a younger child. And so, there's so much that goes into it. You really never know, but, in my experience, it's often things that have happened to the individual. Because with
And
Grace,
by
I brought
Mhm.
up
Go
reactive
ahead, go ahead.
attachment
Mhm.
disorder that, what he was describing sounded like reactive attachment disorder to me,
For sure.
but go on ahead.
With the five-year-old that I mentioned, it was, a young girl who was born to a sex worker, paternity unknown, exposed to narcotics in utero, like, it was a bad situation, and she stayed with her mother and her mother's trafficker,
Oh,
prior to coming into foster care, so there's no question that she saw some extraordinary things based solely on the words that she used in the language. She was using, like, street words and slang that I had never heard of, and keep in mind, I was also, like, a little suburban girl. I was like, "What you mean, mama? What's she talking about?" Um, and so I was like, "Oh, okay." And we were at church one time, and I grew up in a very, very, very conservative religious family, and what everybody was brother this and sister that. And so brother so and so, whoever it was, walked up, and she said, "Is that your pimp?"
wow. Yeah.
"Oh, no, that's Brother Jones with the collection plate." But shh, be quiet, baby, be quiet. We go, okay, okay. And she was ultimately placed in our home because in prior homes, she had been essaying the other children, physically and essaying
Yeah.
children in other homes. And so she was placed in a home that had older or adult children. That's how she landed with us. And after us, she was sent to an institution.
And with trauma, because especially in young children, reenacting, so doing what happened to them or doing things that they've seen is very common. And so often,
Mhm.
she likely went to somewhere to get treated
Yeah.
for the reactivity in a place that had a lot of monitoring. So
Yeah.
where 24/7. So when I worked
Yeah.
in the residential treatment center, we charted because I would work overnight sometimes, and I think we had to check on the kiddos I think it was 30 minutes at night. If they were on a higher precaution, it was like 15 minutes or something. But we had to
Mhm.
basically check them every so often. And so thank you for the super chat, Dr. B and GRI Dream Team. Does Zach dissociate? So I don't now maybe to do the crime, he might have had to disconnect some, but
Mhm.
mm, I wish he was connected to have found another way to get
Yeah.
safety for the child that didn't involve lying and manipulation, because he called CPS as a neighbor to say he had seen her physically. Because I think if he had known she was being harmed that way, I think he would have called and reported it.
Mhm.
I do think
Mhm.
that they weren't aware of the full extent of what was happening to the child.
He had very black and white thinking, which I've seen in people. There's some people that I've met over the course of my life who are extraordinarily rigid, and there's like, "Thank you, Tanika. The way I love me some Miss Tanika." There's one way to
Okay,
do every single thing.
we get the 3 of us at some we have to
Yes. That would be awesome. That would be amazing, amazing. But yeah, I've met people who are very like, there's one way to do everything. And my experience of that, but I've only seen that in adults, like not in little kids or anything. But I feel like that person is trying to create safety for themselves. For the world to make sense, it has to be this very prescribed, everything has to be a certain way so they can feel safe and okay in the world. And everything about Zach felt like a trauma response to me. God knows I'm not a therapist, I'm a gossip, but everything about him felt like a trauma response.
And that's why people need to heal the trauma. Does
Yes,
that make sense? Because
for sure.
I don't think he saw the potential trauma he was doing to everybody else.
Hmm.
Now, yes, the child, we found out what was happening, but once again, what if John was lying and all of that other
Yes.
hadn't happened? Lisa had a question for you. Do you know anything about the mom's history? I would suspect that she likely had her own history of trauma, but
Yes.
did you hear anything come out about that?
I'd heard that Christina at one point talked about being abused by her father. And I believe one or both of her parents were narcotics enthusiasts.
Okay.
So I don't know how much of that is true, how much of that is rumor, maybe like a little bit of everything, some from column A, some from column B. But there was an extraordinarily complicated history there. Scrupulosity, yes. Elisa Amore says scrupulosity is a side effect of high demand religions. Yes, absolutely.
And
Feel like everything has to be just so. Hmm.
welcome, Andrew. And so, after the mother that we're talking about the Zach Hughes case, after
Hmm.
the incident happened, they recovered, because her boyfriend, is it Brandon? I'm bad with names. Brian, Brandon?
Her
I'm
boyfriend,
Brad.
Bradley Post.
Brad Post. He's currently on trial for or he's going to be on trial for this for the CSAM charges. So they did find out that yes, the child was being harmed, but to my knowledge, no one was aware of the extent prior to the mother's death.
And the pictures that have come out that have floated through the media but have not been made public, thank goodness, mostly because they would be illegal. There are pictures of the mother harming the child in graphic and intimate ways.
This is
Terrible.
I like this question, and I don't mind answering first while you kind of think about it. Have you had any experience as an African American commenter on true crime? Any different approaches? Any difference? And so for me, when cases involve race, I'm comfortable talking about it, and I'll sometimes do some education on things. People have left harmful, hurtful comments in the chat, and people will try to pick up whatever they think your weakness might be. So I've had the certain words spammed like, but I think it was a bot that found my stream,
Oh,
and
interesting.
because there were multiple, because I had to like pause. I think it was before I had moderators because I had to ban a few people because the N word kept being spammed. And yeah,
Oh,
yep,
interesting.
yep,
I
yep.
have never in my chat. Well, first of all, I don't do a lot of live streams. I do a 20-minute video every morning and then I post it and then I go on with my day. And
Right.
about 97% of the time, I don't remember what I said. I open my mouth, I talk, I get on with the rest of my day. And so people will react to me sometimes and I'm like,
Was he
who
good?
said that? It's extraordinarily has not been race based in my experience.
Yep.
My shorts can be a lightning rod for a lot of race based criticism.
Okay.
Um, and if it's really, really bad, I'll just take it down. I mean, with the click of a button, I could take it down. I now have a social media monitor, she goes on and she takes it down. She takes care of all that stuff for me. But if it's just something snarky and nasty about, I don't have enough subscribers and I should be doing this and that, or why do I wear my hair like that? I should wear more makeup. I simply respond with, thanks for the post engagement. And I use the little smiley face with the tongue stuck out with the dollar signs on it. Because it turns out that YouTube pays the same amount for people who say nasty things as they do for nice things. So please, welcome, like and subscribe if you feel so moved.
And you don't even have to subscribe. If you keep commenting, YouTube thinks you like me. They're gonna keep showing you my face.
Yeah, the other race related thing,
Yes.
that I've run into is that for some of particularly with Mama Donna, I feel like a lot of the problems that she has run into is because she's never been a minority, right? Because as a minority, I did not grow up from like a poor and struggling family. My mother was a corporate executive my entire life, right? And I am today. So it's not like we're over here trying to figure stuff out. But there've always been times and situations in my life where I've had to sort of navigate and figure some things out. And so I feel like that gives me an advantage in life that Mama Donna does not enjoy.
And the way that I like to talk about it is she has this sense of entitlement. Like, "Don't you know
Yes.
who I am? Like, don't
Yes.
you should feel bad for me. You should do what I say." And I also think because I think she's used her word so
Yes.
I think her children likely walked on eggshells around her because, um, I think she would go to Charlie to complain about Wendy and go to Wendy to complain about Charlie, and the one that, I forget the other brother that was cut off and he
Robert.
Robert
Mhm.
has sailed off into the sunset and seems to be doing well.
Yes.
After she tried, because I think he married a woman, but I don't think he like his
An
mom really
Indian woman.
wanted
Mhm.
his but was there a broken engagement or something? Because I thought there was someone.
Yes, he was engaged to an Indian American woman, and the mother was like, "Absolutely not, I want Jewish grandchildren." Hooked
Yeah,
him up with a Jewish lady, they got married, and he was like, "I can't do this."
yeah.
Divorced the Jewish lady and went back to his Indian girlfriend, and they got married and have kids, and they live in upstate New York. He's an ear, nose, and throat doctor, which is ironic because now her ears are all stuffed up.
I wonder if she
But
wants him to come visit her to
right? Donna never had to make do. That's the whole point I was making. Donna never had to make do. The problems that she's having in jail, nobody wants to go to jail, but she got some white lady problems in jail. She's like, "Oh, my finger is cut and I need a band-aid." Girl, that is what sanitary napkins and toilet paper are for. What are you talking about? I was telling my husband that, the price of eggs is very high right now. And in New York City, in the Bronx specifically, they sell Lucy's. Now, for those who don't know, a Lucy used to be one cigarette, right? You can afford a whole pack. You can get a Lucy, you get one cigarette. These days, you can get one egg. Up in the Bronx, if money is tight, you go to the bodega. You're not going down to Kroger. You going over to the bodega on the corner and you get yourself a Lucy egg, right? It's like that is the spirit of ingenuity that come from having to make do. Donna never had to make do. She needs to do the equivalent of whatever the equivalent of a Lucy egg is in prison. You don't have a band-aid? Go and get you a tampon, stick it right. Your nose bleeds, fits right up your nose. You know what I'm saying? You can make do. She got these are white lady problems. She never had to make do.
So, here's a question from Lindsay about possible essay in the military. I think if something had
Mm,
happened to him, I think he would have talked about it. So I think if he had had his own experience with something, but then were there rumors that Zach might, and I have no issues if a person is gay because I don't think
yeah,
and how a person feels and the crimes they do, because who you love doesn't have to impact the crime,
right.
but, um, uh, because I saw rumors about, like, was there ever anything more between him and John? And I didn't see anything confirmed, but
Nothing has been confirmed. I asked. First of all, John Mello, he was emailing me for a time. Child, that's another story for another day. He's crazy. Um, yeah, he's a big fan of gossip, rumor, and innuendo, apparently. But there were rumors that Zach and John had been lovers for a time.
okay.
When asked, because I was like, I obviously, well, I did have a chance to talk to John, but I was like, no, because he's crazy and he out here free. I'm not trying to do that. But I asked friends of his, people who know him, and they said, according to him, he said that Zach was all man, whatever that means.
But
But
that
that
could
there
be
had
that
not
could go
been
either
an
way.
intimate.
Like, all that doesn't necessarily okay. Alright, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, but I was like, so what's the story? What's that good? Good. I don't just listen. I got members of my family part of the Rainbow Coalition. Them some of my favorite people, but no. Allegedly, there was a rumor, but allegedly, that's not the case between those two.
Okay. I'm catching up on on the chat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people enjoyed that Lucy egg. I'm telling you right now,
Alright.
get you a corner store situation going.
Oh my gosh. And, I and Wow. Wow. Any other, like, questions? So with Donna, the other thing that I'm interested to see is if she's ever going to turn on anyone else. I don't know that she will, but
I think she thinks she can beat this.
okay.
I think she thinks she can beat it. She's just arrogant enough. If she's still sticking with this, it was an extortion. And wait, this is how I know she's fully, fully, fully delusional. Her team wants to, what is it called when you question somebody? Depose.
Okay.
They want to depose Sigfredo Garcia. Sigfredo Garcia, the man who did the wet works, has never, never, never spoken to law enforcement, but he's out here been running his lips to all of his jail
Yeah, people.
colleagues, I don't know what you call them, the people that are over there in the jail. And he told the people in the jail that Donna Adelson and Charlie were the ones who did it. They were putting money on his books. They were doing all the things. He's talked nothing but bad about the Adelsons and told Katie, roll over on the Adelsons and save yourself. And now Donna and her funeral home lawyer is like, this is what we're going to do. We are going to depose Sigfredo. Good luck with your project. That don't sound like a good idea to me.
Wow.
Mm-mm.
I would love to hear your thoughts on the Dateline special because you were able to watch it. I've seen the
Yes.
previews, and I'll give a few thoughts, but what were your thoughts on the special?
Lori Vallow, I refuse to call her Daybell because that's what she wants. Lori Vallow is living her best life. She's just like, wait, I have my tampon curls in. I have a lipstick on. I have drawn on an eyebrow, and I'm just gonna giggle and kiki with Keith Morrison. She is loving every minute of this. Much like I said about Sarah Boone. Sarah Boone is our biggest fan. The general public, YouTube, everybody out here talking about her. Lori Vallow loves this attention. Um, and I'm enjoying watching her crazy. She want to be crazy, good, because before long there'll be another crazy lady doing some other mess, and I'll be talking bad about her, and I will forget Lori exists.
So before we got on, you mentioned that it was a little was it boring? Because you mentioned falling asleep a few like
Yeah, I slept through it 4 times. Like, every time I put it on, I would fall asleep. I finally watched it while I was standing up this morning in the kitchen making breakfast for my husband. That's the only way I could stay awake. There was no new information, there was no revelations. If you know the story, you know the story. She's very happy and giggly and thrilled to be talking to Keith Morrison because she's wanted to talk to him forever, and her jailer up in North Idaho, Iowa, wouldn't let that happen. But down in Southern Idaho, Iowa, they are more open to the media. And
okay.
so they say she could be on. And she's like, we'll have to do this again. You would have thought it was like tea at her house.
But, I think she would have said that to anyone, no matter who
Yes.
came. I think she would have said,
Yes.
"I'm your biggest fan," because I think that's how she tries to get people on her side, and she tries to
Yes.
get people to like her, because then
Mhm.
I think there were points during the interview where she tried to push back against him a little, like, when I think maybe if it wasn't going the way she wanted it to go, or she was trying to get a certain narrative across, because,
Mhm.
her continued religious delusions, about she can see Jesus showed her that her and Chad are not in prison. And it's just like,
Right. How's hell, Lori? How's you? Because we're not gonna see you at the Endless Heaven buffet. We're not gonna run into you. It's not gonna be a problem. And she's not gonna be in the leafy green suburbs of hell. Now listen, I'm not so super religious that I'm gonna get to the pearly gates. They're gonna be like, "Oh, come on in." They're gonna be like, "Girl, we was there that one time." You know what I mean? So if I go to hell, I'm gonna be in the leafy green suburbs with slow Wi-Fi and long lines at the Whole Foods. She gonna be in the deep, dark inner city of hell. I'm just telling you. That's the gospel according to Kathy. I'm not in charge of nothing.
and then somebody mentioned that it was a masterclass of snubbing Lori in the ego by making the message about Colby picking up the
Yes.
pieces in the real world. Because I really
Yeah.
my heart breaks for Colby. I will have to go and check out his coverage of it on his channel. And then Lisa asked about the Ruby Franke docuseries on Hulu. Did you watch it? I
I did not watch the docuseries. I watched Mormon Stories
okay.
6-hour coverage. of the docuseries.
Is
John
it
DeLynn is out
timestamped?
here doing the most.
Is it timestamped? Can I
He's
skip?
I don't know. I watched it live because I was just like, I put it on. Something I was like doing something else, and I put it on, and it went all through my workday. Lauren from Hidden Gems, Hidden
Came on.
True Crime, was on there. She's like, I'm gonna have to cancel this flight because this is running long. They went for 6 hours. I
Wow.
watched about 4 of it live. I still have to go watch the last 2, but nothing in that surprised me either. It was what you thought, a lady who gets on who wants to be like perfect, 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 but she's screaming at her kids in the background and mean and nasty. And she was mean before she ever met Jody. Stand on your head if you didn't see that coming, you know?
Mhm. Um, but I think there was some before she even met Jody, because to me, one person, you don't go from being this
Right.
awesome, because she was already yelling at her kids. I think she already had a certain mentality and
Yes.
disdain and contempt for her children. And as a mom, I empathize. So I have one. I think you said you have,
Hmm.
and so
I
for
have
me,
4.
yeah, and we we have our days, but I would never want to see my child harm. Like I would never want to do harm to my child. She seemed to
Hmm.
enjoy harming
Yes.
her kids, and she also
Yes.
seemed to not have age appropriate expectations. So the one that
Yes.
I'll never get over is her being upset at her child's, I think, kindergarten teacher or 1st grade. It was her child,
First grade.
her 1st grade
Hmm.
teacher, because her child forgot her lunch, and it was like, "Oh,
Hmm.
that was your responsibility, and that the teacher shouldn't feed the child." Like, no. In 1st grade, so my son, I drove him to school. He gets off. I then drive 30, 40 minutes to work. I get to my office, and his book bag with his lunch, with all his stuff, it's in the back seat. I have
Oh,
I have
no.
I have one client to see, and then I have a break. So, and my husband is across the street from the school, but my husband doesn't always look at his phone. So I message his father, and I'm like, "Hey, can you take him a lunch? Because my child, he they could offer him a school lunch. My kid is above it all. He's super spoiled. He is he calls
Hey,
it
Donna
school food.
Adelson.
He calls it school food and school water. He's like, I don't drink school food. I don't do water from the water fountain." And
Oh
so
my God.
what I did as a mom is it worked out in my schedule that I drove that 30, 40 minutes back. I dropped off my kid's book bag. And I could have just, but like, and I gave him a hug. But now when I take him to school, that book bag is in the back seat with him. And it's like, little bit,
Yes.
you better make sure that it's not going to be on me and
Yes.
my
Yes.
ADHD in the morning. Like, no, you're gonna make sure to take it. To me, she seemed to be twisted already.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
Jody just had a system, because I saw that Connections is being sued, and I'm glad, because
Hmm.
Connections still exists. Like, it's the program is still, yeah. Well, like, so
Girl.
like all the people she trained, because she used to train. Jody used to train
Right.
therapists. She used to train this
Right.
program, because only her and Ruby, they were the only 2 that went down, but this program
Hmm.
still exists. And
I'm
because
not
what
surprised,
what
really.
happened is they just coulda changed the name, and I don't even think they did. Because I
Hmm.
know people would try to say, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with the program," and it's like, "No, there is. This program is flawed. This program
Yes.
has issues." And so the lawsuit against, I think it's against Jody and possibly Ruby too.
Hmm.
That one, I think, is to make sure that the program stops.
That scrupulosity of it has to be just so. I've mentioned before on my channel that I'm sober. I've been sober for like 100,000 years, since like the 90s. And I've had a lot of AA sponsees over the years, and some of them, particularly the mothers. I mean, because in those programs, it's like women with women, men with men.
Yeah.
But some of the women, the mothers that I have met, I've run into 1 or 2 over the years who have been very, very like, they need an extreme amount of order for themselves, and they insist on having that for their children. And there was one lady that I worked with who, she's like, it's not like I enjoy punishing my child, but it needs to happen. And I was like, okay, I am not a person who is real good at biting my words back.
Mhm.
And so I was like, chill, you are abusing this. Oh, Dyfus, what are you doing? You know what I mean? And so she was like, wait, what? You think that what I do? Oh, and I remember saying to one person at one time, she was going on about something, and I was just like, but what are you gonna do when that man leaves you? Because if I was him, I would leave you. Um, maybe not what your sponsor should say to you,
No,
but
but
this is what I said.
sometimes you have to be blunt. Sometimes I
Yeah,
think you because, especially with somebody in recovery, they need to be told the way it
yeah,
is because they're already lying to themselves in order to come out of
yeah,
this denial that
yeah,
there aren't any problems.
yeah.
And so, I think people can appreciate that bluntness.
I think that person said that she wanted to fire me as her sponsor, and I was like, that's fine.
Volunteer position, right?
Child,
Like,
girl, please, nobody paying me for this. You taking up my lunch hour. It ended up working out okay, and that situation got smoothed over. But I've run into a lot of people. But I also had a parent who was very like everything should be just so.
mhm,
And I mean, I'm in my 50s. One parent is dead, the other's in her 80s, and they believe that like any minute I'm just gonna like make the turn and do the things that they really, really feel like I should be doing with my life. And I'm like,
nah, I'm good.
do I seem like a girl who follows directions? You're too good to follow the directions I'm supposed to follow. You want me to do something I don't want to do, I've refused to do for 50 years, but now suddenly I'm just going to change my mind?
No,
Girl.
not gonna happen.
But you talk to your mama like that, she get mad. So go ahead.
So, I have a podcast with my mom. I can't say it exactly like that because my mom, but
Really?
but my mom, she can take some feedback. Like she's like, I can tell her, "Mm-mm, nope."
Okay. Cool.
So here's a question about sanity and Lori Vallow, and
Mm,
I like to explain that legal sanity does not mean that Lori does not still believe that God called her to do whatever. But she just has to understand the court process. She has to
right.
understand who the judge is, that the judge like that Jesus isn't the ultimate, like it's like the judge and the jury are the ones that are going to decide her fate. And she was found incompetent at a point and went through a process to have competency restored. And a part of that
Right.
is a therapist, often a forensic psychologist, sitting down with them, going over,
Ooh,
like, yeah, like, because so you keep saying, this is the judge, this is your lawyer, because some people, they're so psychotic or they're so delusional that they think they're paranoid, thinking their lawyer is against them, or because there was a lady, I forget which state, but she wrote a letter to the judge saying that her lawyer was the grandson of Joe Biden, and he wasn't. Like he like he wasn't at all. Like it was a real
ma'am.
and they ordered 2 competency evaluations
Yeah.
for her. So Lori Vallow is sane enough. It's
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a mask. I think she knows how the court process works, because if
Right.
she's found incompetent, she goes to the state hospital often. Like that's normally where competency
Mm-hmm.
is restored. And it's they often make you take medication. Sometimes you have to take, yeah.
Oh, they can force it. They can like insist that she take the medication.
If the judge orders, if the judge says you have to comply with
Oh,
any and
wow.
all requirements or recommendations of staff,
Right.
they can they can court order, medication. Now off
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, I guess when I hear
It
about being
can
forcibly medicated,
it can
that's what that means?
it can depend on the state, because nobody's gonna force the pills down the person's, but by
Mhm.
not taking the medication, they might. So if the treatment team has ordered, in order to, because let's say the person has bipolar disorder, where they're going
Right.
from, mania with psychosis to depression,
Mhm.
and they need to be on medication to hold it together for trial.
Mhm.
A judge can, and it depends on the state, it can depend on things, but they can order that the person be treatment compliant with,
Oh,
with
wow.
recommendations. Yeah. It just
But if they don't want to, right? Like, remember that dude, Deobra Redden, who jumped over the judge's bench? Like, if he decided, like, yeah, no, I would like not to, thank you so much. Like, what do you do in that case if you can't force the pills down their throat?
the sad thing about his case, and I was so glad that, his defense attorney for his trial about what happened with the judge, um,
Mhm.
uh, if I think his defense attorney listened to him because I do think the state failed him a little because he was trying
Mhm.
medication. So he
Right.
wanted to be on his medication. I
Right.
still think he might I don't know, like, because when he was ordered to take it, it sounds like he did take it, but let's say, like you said, he was refusing to take it, then he can be hospitalized because he like, sometimes there can be consequences or that can be a
Right.
probation violation. Because sometimes,
Mhm.
because he was going through mental health court, and often with mental
Right.
health court, one of the stipulations is that you are attending therapy, that you are taking your medication
Oh,
as prescribed, and if you don't do those things, you can have to
then
transfer
that's a violation.
criminal
Okay.
court, or it can be a violation of probation. But yeah,
Wow.
because
Wait, did you follow the Natalie Cochran case at all? The
that
lady who gave her husband the insulin?
yes.
That I was fascinated. I don't
The former pharmacist that
Yes.
like not just lady,
Yes.
but like because her team to me seemed to try to minimize like that she would have known how to get away with or like that she would have known him hitting his head and being unconscious for hours, like, and she's telling people to not call, like, "Oh, it's fine. It's fine." He doesn't like the hospital, and she's
If
prolonging
my
his
husband is
diabetic
passed out
calling.
on the floor, I don't care what the reason is. But see, I like my husband and would like him to stay alive. She was not so encumbered with such things. She was like, "Ooh, good. I'm about to get this life insurance money," or whatever she thought she was gonna get out of it. I
Did
was fascinated by
she
that
write a book?
case.
Did she write a book? Might not have been her.
Yes, she wrote a couple of books that are like devotional. I think they published them in the name of her daughter, like how to do well at, like, what to expect when you're going to prison. I don't know what that book was called, but it was some sort of like to help the ladies in prison. Natalie was clearly like evil or twisted or whatever, but the level of delusion enjoyed by her mother was like, I don't know what happened. If enabling was an Olympic sport, her mama would be a gold medalist. She was like, "I think somebody cheated the kids. I can't believe somebody would do this to my
And I think
daughter."
her mom almost tried to blame somebody else. And
Blamed the government, blamed everybody. Yeah,
sometimes you're looking at the defendant and then you see their family and you're like, "Oh,
yeah.
okay.
This tracks.
Okay." Because to
Yeah.
me, you have to balance love and discipline. And to me, discipline is learning. So,
Yes.
I don't let my child do whatever he wants. Right now he is listening to the iPad and the headphones are not connected at all, but I think I don't think you're hearing it. I think we're fine. But, like,
No, I don't hear it at all.
perfect, good. If there are times so one of our new things is, "Hey, buddy, if you don't bring your homework folder home, this is gonna be a natural consequence for,
Mhm.
like you're gonna miss your video game time that night," or I don't know, like
Right.
there's a because some of these people have never had to be held accountable for their behavior, and the parent does
Yes.
not want to see their child be uncomfortable or be
Yes.
and sometimes I think the parent is trying to save face too.
Mm.
Depending on what my child did, I don't know if I'm gonna go in front of a judge and say something for you. Like, I'm like,
Right. Look,
depending
my kids know who their mama is. They like, you better
because
govern yourself accordingly.
so,
I'd be like, "Judge, can I smack him while we here?"
when
Mm-mm.
when when I was in college, there was an important, like, protest that was coming up, so I called my mom and I was like, "Hey, mom, I'm gonna go protest. I'm not gonna break, but, like, we might go into the dean's office without permission, so if I get arrested, I need like, you get a call from the Blacksburg jail, I just need I need ready." Because my mama 'Cause, like, if let's say I did something I wasn't supposed to, my mama isn't
Mhm.
gonna come bail me out. Like,
Not at all.
you did that? You sit there.
Not at all.
No. No.
Yep.
No.
I've always told mine, when you choose the action, you choose the consequences that come with it. So you can't stay out late and then be mad that now your privileges are gone or whatever it is. And it got to the point where most of my children are low conflict.
Mhm.
I got one or two though. They're like, I am choosing this action. I accept the consequences. Bring the consequences on. I'm unbothered by all consequences. So this one drove me fully crazy. His act right was not fully installed. And when he was about, I guess he was 18, he was out of high school. And I was like, you need to get a job, or you need to go to school, or you need to do something. And he was not interested in any of those things. He was like, I said, well, go to the mall and get a job. Hey, David. Um, I was like, "Go to the mall." He was like, "Ooh, I could not work at the mall." All he had to do was get up in the morning and drive his brother to school, his little brother to school, only on days that it rained, right? Not every day, only on days that it rained. And the first time he let his brother walk the 6, 8, 10 blocks, whatever it was, in the rain. His brother's in the second grade. I'm at work, his dad's at work, his other brother's at school. Let him walk in the rain. Oh, Ma, see what happened was I was heated. The second time, my baby is soaked to the skin. He's like, "Well, he didn't wake me up. He should have woke me up." I said, "You out of here. You got to go. You got to, I don't care where you go." He was like, "Well, where am I supposed to live?" Brother, that is a you problem. So I was like, "You have
He had he had
30
he had he
days."
had one job.
And he
One
could not get it done. And he got his behind carted right off. First, he was going to go to Job Corps, right? And Job Corps, I don't know if you're familiar with Job Corps,
Yeah.
but Job Corps, for where we live in North Jersey, you have to go someplace in your region, where our region is as far south as DC, as far north as Maine. So they called and they said, "We have a Job Corps assignment for you in Oneonta, New York." And so 2 weeks goes by. I wasn't speaking to him because I couldn't stand the sight of him at that time. So I said, "So what's going on with Job Corps?" He said, "Well, they called for an assignment with me." And I said, "So when you leave?" And he's like, "Oh, I read the Yelp reviews on that one, and the Yelp reviews were terrible. And I knew you would not want me to go to a place with bad Yelp reviews. So I'm waiting for them to give me a better placement." I said, "Sir, you are about to be homeless. I don't care what the Yelp reviews are." He's like, "I was hoping for one closer to home. And I wanted this, I wanted that." The next assignment they came through with, he took it. They put his behind up in the Iroquois National Forest, which is right up there by Canada,
Yep.
6, 8 hours from my house, in the middle of nowhere, where he stayed for 9 months. And they fully installed his act right with no hesitation, no fuss, no muss. And he called me like, "Mama, these people are hard to live with." "You're hard to live with. What are you talking about?" Like, "Mm-mm, I want to come home." New phone, who this? I blocked that number. You be calling me. Don't be calling me. If the sheriff need to roll up at my house to tell me something important, let him tell me. No, I can't. I
Oh,
cannot. So he got his Act Right fully installed. Since then, he's been fine, because Job Corps is in the Act Right installation business. That is what they do.
they do. And, so I've worked with some people that have gotten kicked out of Job Corps, so you know there was there were some issues,
Mhm.
to get kicked out of Job Corps, and Lisa mentioned working for Job Corps in the past or yeah.
It's an amazing program. It's an amazing, and friends of mine, because I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna send him to military school and all these things." It turns out with military school and like these very strict, the child has to want to go
Yeah,
and be
definitely.
compliant.
Mhm.
My kid knew he was out of options because he knew I was dead ass serious. And I kept saying
Mhm.
to him, "You don't want to be the person that we're happy to see you gone." Right. And when he was gone, my whole house calmed down. I knew what to expect on a daily basis. I wasn't going to come home with a stinking ass boy at 6 o'clock in the evening, walking around scratching his behind with a filthy robe on, food down the front of him, asking me what's for dinner. What? Mm-mm. I needed Jesus in my spirit because I was this close to cracking his head clean open. Child, sons.
Mm.
But that one, he still takes us through it. But
Different
he's
way.
funny now. When we went to do what do you call it? Maple sugar. We went to do like a session yesterday where you tap trees for maple syrup. they did some demonstration in the local area yesterday. So we were going to go. Well, we did go. It was really fun. So that's my 26-year-old, the troublemaker. Um, he said, I was explaining to the littles, my two youngest sons who are 17 and 20. We still refer to them as the littles. He's like, I was explaining to the littles what we were going to do today. I told them we were going to go jerk off trees. Sir, sir, that's not that that's not what we're doing. That's
And
not what we're
then
doing.
I'll laugh if he ends up becoming a bit of a comedian. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'll just come back and be like, Dr. Bear, just email me, text me.
Pray my strength in Tina Turner. Pray my strength. Because I was like, I'm gonna need all the saints and angels to be with these children today. But they went at the end of the day, he said, Mommy, I had a great day. It was an amazing day. We all piled in the car. We went to the place. We learned how to make maple syrup. Then we went to a diner afterwards. It took us all afternoon or whatever. Then we came.
Um, Yawning Greyhound said he might have got it from you.
No lies detected. Not one. I might have got it from my mama. That might be the reason that I get on her nerves.
So this is my mini me. So I was one. If my mom said the sky was blue, I'd be like, no, it's turquoise. Like I was, and that is, I got it right back. He looks like his
Yep.
dad. He acts just like me, and I do my woosah because we're trying to break generational trauma here. And so because my mama did not hold back. And so and that's why I ended up in the school nurse's office. So my mama used to say, I'll kill you and make another one just like you. But like
Yep.
she never, she never like tried to harm me or anything like that. But that's,
My
and
mama tried to harm me, but go ahead.
I was
She was not
joking.
playing. My
I was
mother was a
joking with
house
a
shoe
friend.
ninja. She
I
would mess you up with a house shoe.
I
Girl,
think
a fly swatter, a wooden spoon.
I think a friend got concerned and I got called to the office. So my mom's name is Johnny. So I get
Okay.
to the school counselor's office and the school counselor is like, "Hey, how are you?" I'm like, "I'm good." She's like, "Does your dad ever touch you?" And I was like, "Ma'am." So
What is happening?
we were living in Germany. My dad was in Turkey, and I was just like, I hadn't seen the man in like I hadn't seen him, and like I was just like, where did this come from? But I think the counselor saw my mom's name and thought, oh, this is her dad, and like
Right.
didn't even. And so, and she didn't know at that time. My mom was in the U.S. and I was staying with
Hmm.
a friend. She was a civil servant, and so she was on a brief TDY, a business
Right.
trip in the US. So I called my mom crying. That woman, I don't know her name, thank goodness. She's the reason I became a therapist. Before that, I wanted to be an accountant, and it was like she does not know how to talk to children. Because I was like,
Wait.
because if something was wrong in my life, I would have never told her. Like I was just
Yeah.
like, I was because it should have been like, hey, we got a report. We just need to talk about some things.
Right.
I want to make
Right.
sure
Right.
that you're safe, because I would have been prepared because I know my mom. I probably told a friend something and they were like, oh, like, and they were probably because, oh, my mom, she bought a leather Indian made like it was like a whip to threaten me with.
Hmm.
She didn't do, but like she would do threatening things, and so like I could understand a friend being concerned. Um,
Look, I'm looking at these comments. My mama tried to run me over. What? My mama killed me once. Child. Same.
so
Same. My mother was not. I remember her driving down the street. You said she nail you with with the back of her hand right in the mouth, and she would just keep on driving. Let's say something else. Also, my mother is 4'9".
oh my god.
She
Them
was
them little
not
Napoleon ones, like,
playing.
yeah, they don't, yeah, yeah. So, we used to ride on the back of the trunk, but just so like, she would go slow. Like, we would get to our
Yeah,
neighborhood and just,
yeah,
like,
of
hop
course.
hop on the trunk, and she would drive slow. It would be in my community group chat, because so we have a community Facebook page. I wish I would put my child, and we have a SUV, you really couldn't put, but I wish I like there would be a
Oh
picture
my
of,
God.
Whose car is this? I've already reported it to the non-emergency police line.
We would lay in the my mother had a Chevy Maverick. We would lay in the window, the back window, and wait for her to slam on the brakes so we could fall down onto the seat of the car. Oh, that was some big fun. Yes, we risk our lives, and then your mama would get mad and come outside with a switch, a belt, whatever, and wear you out. And then you would cry, and you just be like, okay, next week, Sandy, and then her mama gonna wear her out because something she did or said or whatever. That's the way it was. I now do not believe in corporal punishment. I'm a
Thank
very evolved parent, all the things. But when I was a child, if I got
Okay.
in trouble up the street, hmm,
So you can't spank a child and give them their Switch. Does that make sense? Like, it's just like these kids nowadays, like there's too
right.
much technology. It's not, it doesn't work. It doesn't
Yeah.
work for
Yeah, but the only switch I knew about was the one I had to cut from the tree so my grandma could beat my behind. And we were trying to be funny one time, and my grandmother lived way out on farmland, and so she was mad at us for whatever. She told us to go get a switch, and so we went outside, like a switch from the tree. We got a big long switch off the cherry tree that still had a bunch of cherries on it, and she's like, "Y'all think y'all playing?" Because she would take all the bark off of it. That was like she would go get me a switch. So we bring her one this big. You know what I mean. So we bring her one this big. And finally we brought her one that was real, real long, but it had a whole bunch of cherries still on it. She beat 3 or 4 of our behinds, cherries flying everywhere. It looked like a crime scene in there from all the smashed cherries all over the place. So I told you, kids. But I was just like, we were not injured. Our pride was injured more. I don't even think we were like, there were no welts, there were no bruises, there were no whatever. She was big, big mad. And she would yell, ooh, and talk to us about the Bible and preach the gospel to us. Please, Grandma, Grandma, can I go get 2 switches? If you would just beat me, I would really appreciate it if you would stop reading Isaiah to me right now. I can't take Second Timothy today, Grandma. I can't do it. Please just hit me.
Mm,
Like, mm-mm.
mm, mm, mm. Ah, so I have so
The old
enjoyed
days.
getting to chat with you. So I
Now that
like
we discussed our
live.
trauma.
Because so but when I record a video, I go back and edit it, and that just takes, like, I don't, so I go live, it is what it is, we say what we
Right,
say, and we
right.
and we and we keep it moving. I also love the engagement because sometimes I'm talking and I forget something, and then the chat helps me out. So I absolutely
Chat will
love.
get you all the way together, all the way together.
Any closing thoughts, any other things that you wanted to chat about as we start to wrap it up?
The only other thing that I wanted to run by you was Jennifer Gledhill. Now, this case is in early days, but this is a lady who planned the and committed, followed through with the unfortunate unaliving of her husband. She got rid of him, and then she confessed to her boyfriend, and he got the ick. And so she was trying to unick the entire situation. But I was wondering, had you followed that case, and did you have any thoughts or reflections on it?
Because I think you, compared this to, like, those Utah Mormon, and not that
Hmm.
they, but I think sometimes when you're in a religion, and Mormons can get divorced, like, that's a
Yeah,
thing,
for
but,
sure.
I think there are some religions where women are encouraged not to work, or if they are working, it's like these MLMs, or the husband is the one
Hmm.
that's encouraged to provide, they're encouraged to have, a whole bunch of children, all of those things. And I th- and it's just sad that people don't just leave. It's like, okay, you
Yeah.
you wanna move on with somebody else, get get divorced and leave. But
Yeah. It's
uh,
never that easy, though. It's
and then
never that easy.
but also I don't think they realize, because if she's found guilty, she'll be convicted of doing this to her children's father. Does that make sense? Like,
Yep.
and then so the the trauma of it, because, so I've worked with individuals that have had a family member die by violence, but it was always
Mhm,
some other person. Like, it wasn't another family member. I'm sure at
mhm.
some point I'll work with somebody that, has been a victim of a crime, or so, and I've worked with, like, DV situations, or I've worked with some of those types of, but never like murder, like somebody that's had a family
Mhm.
member murder another family member. And because when it's your family member, it just makes it so much more traumatic, that
Yeah, for
because those
sure.
kids probably loved their father.
Of
And
course.
and, if the mother is convicted, they will also lose their mother, and it just creates all this extra just
Yeah.
stuff down the road.
But I
Um,
also feel like if you're the mother who does this to the father, you probably weren't a very good mother anyway. And so while it's terrible, and I believe that every child should have
yeah,
loving parents in no matter what number, no matter what gender, no matter what that looks like, they
yeah,
should be surrounded in like a loving bubble. That doesn't happen in lots of cases. In lots of cases it does. But if your mother is a terrible human being and she happens to go away for the rest of your life, obviously, I hope you get good therapy and all the things, right? Like I tell my kids, I'm not the perfect parent. I hope I've raised you well enough to find a good therapist should you choose find that you need one. Because like I'm just doing
yeah.
the best I can.
So I
I'm
so
just doing my best.
I'm a therapist, and my kid no later than 10. Like he's going to have his own therapist at some point because
Yeah,
no parent is perfect, and I value mental health treatment, and
for sure.
life happens. And I think it can be helpful to have somebody else to chat with. Um but I don't
Who's
know.
not your friends? Bobo and Nuck Nuck and them down on the corner. That's not it.
And I think, some of the famous cases that came out of Utah has made people some of these Utah cases get more prominent, 'cause this is
For
things like
sure.
this have probably been happening out there for a while, but,
Hmm.
um and then I also sometimes wonder if things get covered up because the medical examiner has to do a good job, because
Right.
if Lori and Chad hadn't done what they did to the children and just what happened to Tammy, I don't know that we would have ever I don't know that they would have gotten caught because nobody
Truly.
did anything with Tammy's death. And so if there hadn't been those missing children, I don't know that they would have went back to look at everything. So I do think that sometimes things can get missed along the way. Um
For
when
sure.
yeah.
I feel bad for our Mormon friends who, like, listen, if a one terrible crime happens with a woman, then every woman who does something bad, it gets blown up that much more. If it happens with somebody left-handed, then everybody wants to follow the left-handed crimes, whatever it is. Right now, it's the murderous Mormon moms.
Yeah.
Um, and so if it's out of Utah or that sort of Idaho, that part of the country, I'm automatically thinking like, "Ooh, another murderous Mormon mom." I don't know that Jennifer Gledhill was a Mormon or has any ties to the
Okay.
Mormon church. But I immediately was like, oh, another murderous Mormon, which is unfair to our funeral potato Mormon friends. I don't know if you know this, but I have ranked our Mormon, I've categorized fairly or unfairly our Mormon brothers and sister in the regular run of the mill, just like me and you. Those are the funeral potato Mormons. They go to church on Sunday, they have family home evening, they do all the things. And then there's the better than you Mormons. Um, who are just like more Mormony than you. But no, every religion has the better than you version. And then there's the zombie Mormons who are out here unfortunately unaliving people because they think Jesus told them to. I think there are probably just a few zombie Mormons, but the zombie Mormons get so much attention that anytime we see a funeral potato Mormon, we think they're a zombie Mormon,
And
you
then
know?
also, I do think that how some cases because Lori is, now I think because sometimes they show older pictures of her because Lori has aged in
Oh
in in
yeah.
in prison, um,
Hmm.
but, I think when showing because there's this contradiction because in our minds, when we picture somebody that does crimes, sometimes that bias comes up. And you
Yeah.
picture somebody that's unattractive. I don't know, like you have this certain view of what somebody that does something like this looks like. And I think the ones that
Hmm.
get more attention is when it doesn't fit that mold. When it's the
Right.
Ashley Benefield who like, oh, like she's this gorgeous ballerina, like what in the world?
Hmm.
Or, Lori Vallow, all of these other ones. But her parents also getting arrested, and, looking into if they were involved, because 'cause they're facing, charges of obstruction of justice based on things, I've seen
Oh
from
wow.
October of last year. Yeah. Um, uh, and so Um, yeah, according to the police, witnesses observed the parents at her house for over 5 hours. So I think they're
Oh,
thinking
cleaning up and all of that. Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
That the parents saw, because if my child contacts me and, "Mommy, I need your help. I need more info, what's going on?" And if I show up and I am I'm I'm getting to a safe place because I don't want you. I don't know. I don't know if you. I'm getting to a safe place, and I'm contacting
Mhm,
the authorities. I am not helping
mhm.
you cover up a crime because
Yeah.
that is a crime. No,
I can't go to jail. I mean,
I'm
at the end of the day, I can't go to jail.
I look too good in orange, whatever color, whatever color they're wearing, and I like earrings.
Mm-mm,
I wear earrings in jail. I need
mm-mm.
my hair products. I use special brushes. No, I'm not. I
The
don't have
thread count is low, the
they
mattresses are thin, I can't.
I would have
Mm-mm.
some nice cornrows though. I would find somebody to I would find somebody to braid my hair, but,
Mhm.
I'm not trying to go to jail. Mm-mm.
Yeah, no. No, no. I just all those carbs. Honestly, the carbs alone would keep me on the straight now. I'm at hands at 10 and
I'm
2.
thinking
I'm not going through a stoplight. No, no. It's
I'm
too many
thinking
Do you know how hard do you
I get
know how big my behind would be? My behind is already big.
I see
The
it over here.
carbs in jail? No. I can't do it.
I was thinking of
I
Sarah
can't do it.
Bones, cheese and Pop-Tarts.
Mhm. So much sugar, so much processed foods. I would be like, "Does Whole Foods not deliver? Can I get Grubhub over here down to the prison?" No. No, thank you. No, thank you.
Oh my gosh. I so loved this collaboration, and I think were you in my live when I was like, "I would love to collab," because I think I saw you comment in a live. Were you in that?
Yes.
Perfect, good, yeah,
Yes.
and
Yes.
you DM'd me, thank you so much. Nashay says, "When is part 2?" So we can't do this all the time, but, whenever it works out maybe by summer or something,
We'll
uh,
figure it out.
we'll figure something out. And because somebody mentioned, I think, yeah, so somebody said Pat, Cat, Nat, and somebody else. I forgot what was the other one that they
Who's Cat? Oh, Cat
mentioned.
me. Who's Nat?
I don't know if that was like Natalie. I don't know if that's Natalie
Oh,
Lewis.
Natalie Laurier chick?
And then I don't know who, so I've collaborated with Natalie a few times. She does try out.
Really?
Natalie is super busy. If you don't follow Natalie Lawyer Chick, she's a
I
defense
love
lawyer.
her.
Okay, good. Yes. Natalie is phenomenal.
She's amazing. She's amazing.
And I
Yeah,
learned
we
so
get
much from her with that RICO trial out of Atlanta.
Yeah, yeah,
Um
yeah.
um
What's his name? That rapper dude.
Yeah, because when the judge ended up when the judge tried to arrest the lawyer,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
I didn't realize how wrong it was until Natalie broke it down. They had the
Right.
YSL,
Oh, yeah, YSL. Yes. Yeah. I couldn't get
Young Thug.
that's not I don't listen to that music.
I don't watch it. I don't listen to that kind of music.
I've heard of that man.
So
I'm
my
like, does he
mom
sing show tunes?
we're
What?
we're we're gonna go back to some trauma stuff. My mom, she would not let me listen to rap, but I'm over here singing Luther and Boys to Men and all the, like, I can listen to all, because if she couldn't understand the
Yes.
words, I couldn't listen to it. She's like, "I don't know what they're saying."
Old Motown. Child, this is a man's world. James Brown, don't get me started.
So,
Wait, but the soundtrack to Superfly was I could absolutely sing I'm your mama, I'm your daddy, I'm your ninja in the alley, I'm your pusher man. Oh yeah, I was singing that in first grade.
my absolute favorite song, I was like 7 or 8 years old, was Karen White's, Superwoman. I'm not a
Yes.
super, like,
Yes.
I was a little girl talking about, "I'm
Yes.
not the kind of girl that you get." I was singing it all.
And think that everything is all right. Oh yes. There was one we were singing in the car one time, Secret Lover, about a woman who was having like an affair. We were on our way to church and my mother turned it down and she was like, "We cannot be singing about Secret Lover on the way to the house of the Lord." And I was like,
But we
"Okay, but
can
can
do
we
it on
have
the
this
way home.
discussion after the song?
We
Can we
can
have it after the song?"
So we used to listen to gospel music on the way to church, and then we would listen to like whatever else on the way to, because we used to go to like Golden Corral or Red Lobster. I'm dating myself a little. I was back when those places were nice, but
Yes. Well, we didn't my mama cooked after church. We were evangelical, so you go to Sunday morning service, Sunday night service, and then Wednesday night service, and then Saturday was Bible study, and Friday was youth group. So we spent a lot of time at the church. But we had all the latest, like I could sneak and listen to like the Sugar Hill Gang and stuff like that. But all that old Motown, honey, R&B, my mother was about that life. But Superfly was on repeat at my house. I didn't even know what a pimp was. But I was like, okay,
that
sure.
5-year-old did.
It's probably where I learned it from. Child,
Things started connecting.
a mess,
Oh, all right.
a mess. All right,
So
I'm gonna let you get on with your day.
I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream. Y'all, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, thank you, thank
Still need to
you.
add timestamps because we just talked. We just we just talked, and I had such a good time. We will see y'all next time. Hope y'all have a good one. Bye.